is the Northfield Public School Board meeting. It is Monday, October 8th, 7 p.m. And Dr. Richardson, it looks like we just had one item to add to the agenda in dealing with personnel items.
Well, yes, we have multiple additional appointment items and also increase, decrease, and change in assignments, as well as one leave of absence request.
Very good. We will move, add this to the agenda as we move forward, if there's no objection. All right. Public comment. Looks like we have, is anybody here for public comment? All right. We will move on to approval of the minutes. Board members, you have in your packets the minutes from our last school board meeting on September 24th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Moved by Ann. Seconded?
Second.
Second by John. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to announcements and recognition.
Okay, and I have several this evening. First of all, our middle school team-up group, which is teaching English learners action model to unite professionals. Those teachers completed their 2-year-long grant project this last year. However, the Northfield Middle School team was so successful that the University of Minnesota faculty awarded them a mini grant to continue their work for 1 more year. So on September 25th, Team Up members held a bilingual parent night for any families who needed additional assistance in setting up email and family access accounts. Also provided an orientation to middle school life and tours of the school. And that event was a great success. They had over 50 individuals participate from 20 different families. So again, I think a very positive collaboration between the U and the school district, and very successful in terms of helping us support our families. Second announcement I have is that Northfield High School art teacher Christy Clark has been named the Secondary Art Teacher of the Year for Minnesota, and also has been named the K-12 Art Teacher of the Year by Art Educators of Minnesota. And so now Christy will be recognized and honored at a luncheon on November 9th, and then we'll go on to regional and national competition as Art Teacher of the Year for our state.
Great.
So again, congratulations to Christy. Also, our Connected Kids Mentoring Program will be receiving the Robert J. Dayton Quality Mentoring Award from the Mentoring Partnership of Minnesota for addressing sustainability challenges to create stability, exemplifying a unique or innovative mentoring model while maintaining a commitment to quality. I want to thank our staff, Linda Otto, Cheryl Strike, and Laura Berdahl, and the over 100 community mentors and their mentees who make Connected Kids such a successful program. And we had an opportunity to do some taping for that a little earlier this month, and I'm not quite sure where that's going to end up, Hannah, but I know they're putting some pieces together.
It will be part of the presentation Sunday night.
So hopefully they got my good side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
You did a great
and yours too. So, all right. Also, our Growing Up Healthy, a grassroots coalition serving Rice County, has been selected as the Outstanding Organization Award recipient by the Minnesota Community Education Association. Coordinator Janet Lewis-Muth and Viking Terrace neighborhood leader Stephanie Calderon will attend the awards event at the annual conference in Mankato later this week. And as you know, the Community Services Division has been a partner and actually helped to really develop the whole concept of Growing Up Healthy since its inception back in 2007. Also would announce that our Torch students last Thursday were able to have a visit by United States Senator Al Franken, who came in and basically spent about a half an hour with the adults to talk to us about the Torch program and the work that's being done to really help support our Latino families and their parents. And then Senator Franken spent a full half hour with the students sitting down across the table and basically talking about what was happening in their lives and the impact of Torch. Some pretty amazing stories in terms of how it had really turned around kids' lives and moving them from really thinking that there was no reason to continue to go to school to moving towards not only graduation from high school, but also going on to post-secondary education. So again, a nice chance for our torch students to get the spotlight with that visit. And then finally, and Hannah will be giving you more information on this soon, but also in the Harvard Education Review, the Harvard Family Research Project has highlighted the transitions program for our school district, Bridges to K. And so we have several states that are discussed in this, but basically the portion of this article that is concerning Minnesota is kind of all about Northfield and the program we're providing. So again, a good opportunity for a very high quality program to be highlighted and identified as a quality program for supporting that good transition. So, and Hannah will have, I know, future info on that.
Yes, we're going to provide that whole review article to you. I do want to point out that Bridges to Kindergarten is the transition program that they researched with us quite a while ago, and that is now fully funded by the Northfield Area United Way.
Very
and
good.
we greatly appreciate that.
Yes. And right now, that's all the announcements I have.
Very good.
Okay.
Board members, any other announcements or recognition? Nope. All right. We are on to our first report. We are on to the iPad Minute.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm surprised that you allow me to continue to come back and aren't throwing anything at me, and we'll just take that as a positive. Dr. Richardson asked that I share tonight at the beginning of the iPad Minute just the components that we have for the planning process that we're using to develop the proposal that we'll bring to you regarding a student implementation of transformational technology for the next school year. So I believe this was in your board packet, and just want to review this. So as you recall, this summer, our K-12 teaching staff and other selected staff received iPad tablets. As you know, they were required to go through some training. That was continued on, and we've continued with our task forces. Those task forces were recruited in June. We started meeting in August. We've gone through a couple of meetings so far. We have a professional development and training, a policy and procedures, an app and content selection group that's looking at guidelines, and a communication task force. Those folks have been meeting over the past couple of months and continue to meet as we go through right up until December. They'll meet when they're preparing. They'll be helping prepare the recommendation. You'll see that we've got the iPad Minute piece scheduled. You'll notice that as we look at what the schedule was in August, we saw those initial task force meetings, the distribution and training like we mentioned, the task force meetings in September, weekly training. We started the iPad Minute at the last board meeting. In October, we have some task force meetings scheduled. There's additional weekly training at the building level. We're also putting together a staff survey for the questions that are out there for staff yet in terms of an implementation for students, what their concerns are, what they're excited about, all those kinds of pieces, so we can keep making sure that our staff feel informed and feel like they have a voice in the proposal. In addition, we're going to schedule follow-up meetings after that survey has been completed. We'll publish the data to the faculty, and then we'll do kind of an open house meeting at each location for people to come together, discuss the data. Boy, that was a good point I hadn't thought of. Have we considered this? Boy, that was really powerful for me. So that opportunity for us to reflect as a district kind of in a conversational way the data that comes out of that survey. In November, we will go back to task force meetings again. That will be the last task force meeting. Weekly training. We'll also have additional staff open house meetings to talk about what the next steps are. In December, we're going to have a final tech steering committee recommendation come out on approximately December 4th, and that recommendation will be made to the superintendent's cabinet, who will then filter it and polish it and refine it to prepare it for the school board. Then when we get back in January, we're going to have some let's go back to December. At the December 10th board meeting, we'll actually have members of those task forces come before you and just give a brief report on what their product was that they generated as part of the proposal. So you'll actually get to hear from people who are on the task forces, hear the kinds of things that they deliberated about. You'll be able to ask them questions. I think it's just for you for that opportunity to kind of see what the thinking of the task forces that we worked with were. Then when we come back in January, our idea is that we're going to be doing some public presentations and feedback on the task force report. So it's going to be very similar to what we did last winter, where we will have several open houses. People from the community will be able to come. There'll be a short presentation on the task force reports, and we'll ask for feedback from the community on those task force reports. And that will help us further sharpen the presentation and the proposal that we plan to bring to you. So on January 14th, we would bring you what we call a preview of the proposal. So it'll be, as Dr. Richardson likes to say, the teaser in terms of sharing with you the thoughts that we have about what kind of student implementation we would propose for next year. And then the actual formal proposal we would bring to that second meeting in January on the 28th. And then again after that, so we've had the public have an opportunity to come to several open house meetings. We'll give the board the proposal over, really essentially over 2 meetings. And then in the week of February 4th, we would again have another public meeting to review the proposal and have people provide feedback at that point. And then in addition, then we'd look at February 11th, where we would hope that we would be able to have some kind of board decision in terms of where we would be going with some kind of implementation for next year. I'm being very careful to say potential, possible, to make it very clear to the public and to our community that no decision has been made yet on even if we will have any kind of student implementation next year. We've said we're cautiously optimistic about what we're seeing with the staff distribution at this point, and we're seeing staff who are being very excited about the prospect of their students having some kind of tablet device, most likely an iPad at this point. So we just wanted to kind of lay out for you what we've done. I know that you know that because we've said it over and over again, but just try to preview for you what the process is moving forward. And if you had any questions or you had any thoughts on that process, something that you think could make it stronger, I believe that we've really patterned this after a number of other initiatives that we've done where we're really serious about seeking public feedback as part of the process. I'd rather have people share their concerns while we're still deliberating and putting the proposal together, rather than having a lot of concerned people afterwards. And so we're making every effort to really try to make sure that there's a lot of opportunity for public input and for you as a board to really have a number of meetings where you can hear the thoughts, you can ask the questions, you can help us develop a proposal that will be appropriate for Northfield. Are there any questions on that part of the demonstration?
Board members, questions? Carrie?
Thank you for this. It's
Yep.
good to have it all in one place. Just to follow up on what you said, I very much appreciate the opportunity for lots of public, learning about it and opportunity for public input. I think that's really important. The December 4th, the Tech Steering Committee providing that kind of preliminary recommendation to the Cabinet, is the idea that report or recommendation or pre-recommendation or whatever would be sort of summative of what the task force's reports are?
Yes, and more, because the task forces each have a specific charge in an area that we've seen there's need for more research on. The District Tech Steering Committee is going to weave all of those task force pieces together and in the end also fashion what the recommendation that they believe for things like what grade levels to start at, those kinds of pieces. They'll take all of those components together and they'll probably add some to it because the task forces are operating somewhat in isolation. And the District Tech Steering Committee's job is to bring all of that together and then also to fill in any pieces that were not necessarily overlooked by those task forces, but maybe just weren't inherent in terms of the duties of those task forces.
So then that leads me to kind of a follow-up question. Are there people who are serving on the Tech Steering Committee who are also on the various task forces?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I would say that as I'm going through the room of our District Tech Steering Committee, there are just, I can comfortably say 75% of the people on the District Tech Steering Committee, I haven't done the actual math in my head, it's a guesstimate, that at least 75% of those people are serving on one of the task forces.
Okay, so there's good overlap there.
And I'm actually really happy to have some of them not be on it because I want them to be able to ask some questions in terms of if they've not been involved in the task force. So it's not, I'm not overly concerned that we don't have everybody from the Tech Steering Committee on one of the task forces.
Yeah, but I think there's value in having some overlap there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the reason for the projected decision on February 11th? I'm just, the reason for the time frame is,
The purpose of the time frame is really so that we can have an idea of if we're going to move forward or not. Of course, this is just a suggestion. This board, of course, has the ultimate authority to determine when and where you consider it. Our hope is that by looking at a February time frame decision, it is in somewhat closer synchronicity with our budgeting process in terms of that time of the year. And in addition, if we were to say, yes, we're going to move forward, it allows us to start planning that student implementation in February, rather than later in the school year, because we'll take every minute that we can get in terms of to try to prepare appropriately for students.
yeah, and that was my assumption, that it dovetailed with the budgeting process, but I just wanted to make sure that was.
And I think you've hit it. It's really both pieces, though. It's not only dovetailing with the budget, but it's also dovetailing with, once the board makes a decision, if the decision would be the full-on implementation, it's going to take several months to just begin to roll the pieces out. I think Matt and his staff worked very, very diligently over the summer to do the rollout for the teachers. And we were rolling out 300 iPads. So if you think about potentially up to 10, 12 times that many, it's going to take a significant amount of time to get that piece done, because the idea would be to make sure that when the rollout occurs in the fall, that it's very smooth and very coordinated and as seamless as possible to our end users, the students and their families. So, yeah, it's just trying to give us that lead time. We're going to need to get that to happen.
And it is a projected schedule. So we certainly know that things can change, and we may get into it and say, really, we need some additional time before we're ready to make. But I'd rather be discussing it earlier rather than later, if that makes sense. So if we have the opportunity to do this kind of implementation, we'd be thrilled to do it. We think it's got a chance, as we've talked about before, to accelerate student learning and personalize student learning in a number of ways. But we're going to have to find what's right for us. And one of the key components of the proposal that we want to bring forward is a sustainable proposal, something that we can project 3 years out when we'd have to replace those devices. Can we look into the future far enough to where we believe that's something that is ongoing? Because it wouldn't be a good scenario where we don't plan that way, and then all of a sudden you say, well, what do we do now? We don't have any. So we're really trying to be thoughtful about it, and we've made mistakes along the way. We'll continue to make more, but we learn from them. And so it's just our projection.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Other questions? I had one.
Yes.
I was wondering if you had a vision for the public presentation and feedback in January, and what I was thinking of is when we did the Compañeros sessions, there was sort of these options. And is that what the steering committee is driving towards, is to be laying out options, or are they really thinking more of a comprehensive plan, and where are the holes that people could find?
Well, all the details aren't fleshed out of that yet, because some of that will be dependent upon what we're looking at as a potential targeted implementation in terms of what age levels and those pieces. The envisionment would be that we would do it very similarly to how we did the public meetings last year. We would have a general, 25 to 35-minute presentation about the task force findings. And then what we would do is break people into small groups and give them questions and ask them, really essentially it's 3 simple questions. What did you like about what you heard tonight? What didn't you like about what you heard tonight? And are there other things that you're wondering at? We found the real power of that strategy last year is that it left it open-ended, and there are things that people came up with from the community that I will tell you we would have never come up with, on our own in a vacuum. So I felt that was very successful. And, I always go back to things that have been successful if it looks like it's going to be similar. So that would be the idea, but we're certainly open to other suggestions if people had them for a different strategy.
Sounds great. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Excellent. Now we actually go to the iPad Minute here, and which is really great because this is going to be fun. Just to prime the pump here just a little bit, the iPad Minute I wasn't exactly sure last week yet who I was going to have come. And one of the things that we've talked about in our communications task force that Hannah is part of is trying to get videotape in action. So I happened to be scheduled to meet with the secondary art PLC last Wednesday. And I walked in and they started talking about some of the things that they were doing with their iPads. And I said, hold on a second. I'm going to start taking video. and can I use this for the school board? And Chris Holmquist and John Beatty said, of course, that'd be great. So this was literally taken, edited, produced with my iPad. And so I think it goes to show just how spontaneous you can be, and you don't have to be very thoughtful in terms of having to have all the equipment with you. When something pops up that looks like it's got potential, we roll with it. And so I want to be real clear as we begin to play. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. A couple of things I like about it is it's a rough cut. There was no editing. All I did is put in black in and black out, fade in and fade out at the end. So this is as real as it gets. One of the things I really like about this is not only you're going to see them talk through how one of the ways that they're using their iPad, but you're also going to see that they're still figuring a few things out. And I think it's really authentic, and so I hope that you enjoy it. Go in here, Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to take my iPad and put it into the iPad. This is the holder for the iPad. And it simply has some spring-mounted little arms that reach around the edges. It's very easy to put in and out. I'm going to have the monitor facing up. And the camera, let's see. I think I only have the camera. Okay. Let's take this.
One thing we found, if you attach the VGA to this, there's one orientation that works, and if it gets orientated the opposite direction, it reverses the image, so you get this backwards image, which is really weird.
Good learning, though.
So you have to lock your screen, and there's a way you can do that in your system preferences. You can switch that mute button to lock screen in a position. So if you do that for setting this up, then you don't have to worry about that screen constantly rotating. You just get it locked, and then you can play around with this without having.
I suppose that reverse might be very artistic at times.
Well, yeah, not very good for demonstration purposes.
I'm obviously closer to the
Yes,
iPad
yes,
than you are.
yes.
In the camera app, I just turn on the movie film feature, and then I can get it started, and I can be doing my drawings right down here. I can see it on the monitor, and it's able to capture all the very fine details that I need to show in a demonstration. A demonstration that doesn't show the details is not a good teaching tool. So this really gives me, tremendous ability to show kids exactly what they need to see. Gives everybody the best seat in the house. And I like the portability of this. It's easy to set up and take down.
And this is something you made yourself, at least the wood part.
Yeah, and it's just a 1x2. I put some brackets, 3 brackets at the bottom to keep it, and they totally perpendicular to the table, and just a simple clamp to hold it onto the edge of the table, so I can take it off and move it to another place really easily. I'm going to do a lot of this at my home, but I can also bring it into school to work on movies. And it just is I'm very excited about this new possibility, and the kids are going to certainly benefit from it.
So, I mean, that's just a pretty creative, they made their own, clamp and items so that they could do that. And, if you really think what he's going to do, he's recording the demonstration that he's going to do. So when a person needs to reteach or someone was absent, they can take the iPad, they can watch what Mr. Holmquist did. As they move forward, I envision teachers publishing those kinds of videos to the web. This is just one example of an off-the-cuff. You can see, I hope that you could see the level of thought that went into the pedagogy and the instruction and the content and all those pieces. So that was a really great experience. And again, that was just one thing that just happened to show up. So there's your iPad Minute, 2 minutes and 30, as Noel said, the expandable iPad, the elastic minute. So thank you. Do you have any other questions? Or
No?
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready to move on to our items for individual action. Board members, you had in your packet a revision to our tobacco-free environment policy number 419 that at the September 24th board meeting, Dr. Richardson talked about these suggested language changes. Do you want to highlight anything?
Again, just that these were actually identified by MSBA as potential adjustments or modifications to the policy 419, and really are in 2 key areas. One is just the expanded description of tobacco-related devices, which again reflect a whole new situation with electronic cigarettes and other cigars and other things that use nicotine as a base. And then also a piece that basically is just making it very clear that as a school district, we will not be looking at soliciting or accepting contributions or gifts from companies that directly manufacture tobacco products or devices. And I think it just pretty clearly lays out those pieces, and I think gives a little more specificity to our current policy.
Very good. All right, board members, you have a recommendation from the superintendent to approve School Board Policy 419, tobacco-free environment as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Carrie,
Second.
seconded by Ann. Any discussion? No? All those in favor of approving the policy 419 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our second item for action is the Minnesota High School League Foundation Grant for Student Participation. And as you can see, the grant request is for $10,000, and it's to help be able to offer to our program to more students.
Yes, and this is, Tom has been very aggressive in terms of reaching out to the high school league and to look at this option for us, and we've been successful in each year in the past in terms of being able to generate additional dollars. And again, every dollar of this goes directly back to help support scholarshiping for those students that might otherwise not be able to participate in co-curricular activities without the funds to help to support their fees.
All right. Board members, you have the superintendent's recommendation to approve the resolution as presented. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Jeff. Second?
Sure, second.
Second by Ann. And is this a resolution, so we need a roll call vote on this one.
Strudwick,
Aye.
Cornell,
Aye.
Pritchard,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Mabel,
Aye.
Fossum,
Aye.
Iverson.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. On to the items for the consent grouping, and I'll remind board members there were some additional personnel items that we are adding into the consent grouping. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull from the consent grouping? No? Do I have a motion to approve the consent grouping? Moved by Noel,
Second.
seconded by Carrie. All right. All those in favor of approving the consent grouping as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Board members, you had in your packet the latest enrollment report from October of 2012, which I always find interesting to look through. And then the other items that you have are future meetings, and we've got a few changes, so you want to pay attention. Our next meeting is Monday, October 22nd, but we won't meet till 7:30, but we would like all the board members to attend the reception for National Merit Scholars, and that will be in the lower cap this time. And it's a lovely way to recognize not only the students, but the students always choose a teacher to recognize, and that's really nice.
6:30.
It'll be at
6:30.
6:30, correct.
Okay.
And then the board meeting would begin at
Yep, and the board meeting will be right afterwards, which will be at 7:30. And then the next meeting in November will be on a Tuesday, because we are not having a meeting on Veterans Day. So Tuesday, November 13th for our second meeting, our first meeting in November. All right. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Moved by Jeff, seconded by Noel. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Wow.